Hi guys, welcome back to another little
topic
video.
Yeah. We're back in the taboo room time range. You already know what it is. What we got for them today, Ring?
We got Zeze Millz.
Yes.
Is it Zeze on that beat?
Zeze
on that beat. Zeze on that. But yeah, so she has made a video about bodies. Bodies.
Image.
Yeah.
Body. You know what? We're going to get right into it and we're going to talk about it after.
Exactly.
How about that?
I put up a video up yesterday, and I put the video up because I really liked how I looked in the video. I felt good in the video. I was happy when that video was taken. And I put the video up, and there's quite a few comments of people commenting on my weight and making comments, saying, oh my God, she's lost weight. Is she ill? Is she okay? Some people are even talking about, oh, she's on drugs now because she's making money. Just dumb shit. Anyway, this is literally going to be the last time that I say anything about my weight. And if you decide that you want to comment on my weight in the DMs, on my comments, on my posts, I will block you. Like, I've got to that point now. As you can see in this picture, which was in 2016, I have always been a slim girl. It just so happened that when people became a little bit more aware of me, I had put on weight. But this here is my natural default, okay? I could be a little bit smaller than this now, I don't know. But the point is, I'm a small girl and I have always been a small girl, okay? Small, okay? Small, tiny, okay? So as you can see, I've always been slim, okay? But I want to actually talk about why people think it's okay to tell slim people that they need to either put weight on, they looked better when they were bigger, that they need to eat more. Are you ill? Are you okay? Because I know ain't no one going up to overweight people and telling them that they need to put the cakes down and the pies. No one is going up to those people and telling them, rah, Sarah, you've been eating all the pies, you've been eating all the curries, you've been eating all the kebabs. Why don't you slow down? Also, I know all we see now online is big bums and big wide hips and big breasts and thick thighs. Not every single woman is like that. Not every single woman is built like that, okay? It's okay to be slim. There are slim women out there. We are still normal women. We're not ill. We're not dying. There's nothing wrong with us. That is just us, okay? Honestly, it just blows my mind the way people can just comment so freely about people's weight. It's just weird.
So people, let's get into it.
There's a lot to say.
There's a lot to say. I'm going to say I 100% agree, only because I've been in the same position. Like, remember me at my biggest, right?
Mm-hmm.
Me personally, my natural default is slim as well. Like, I'm not like a really small girl because I think I've got quite a lot of height behind me, but I'm not a thick girl. But naturally, I do not put on a lot of weight.
I'm going to open my mouth now. Let me just say one thing. Women do it to yourselves. I'm so sorry. Let me say something first. I obviously agree with everything she was saying about, first of all, I believe everyone should feel comfortable in their own skin, within the parameters of safety. I'm not going to allow my friend to become
obese.
Yeah, to the point where it's actually going to kill him. I won't do that. I don't know if you might do that, but personally, if that's happening, I'm not just going to sit there and allow that. However, in this certain situation, we're living in a time where women are looking at other women and men. They compare themselves so much. And as she said, there's only big bums. You got all these plastic surgeons. Half of them aren't even real.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there before you go into a little... Because a lot of the time... Okay. So, a lot of the time, you men, right?
You men, yeah.
Will, like, stigmatise a certain look. You will comment on, you will like, you will do certain things to further sort of illustrate the fact that these bodies win. When Marilyn Monroe was a size 14 and weren't in fashion, the men were like, nah, we want a slim girl, the skinnier the better, big boobs. She essentially is our role model of today. It came into fashion that having the bigger legs, this, that and the other is still attractive. I think what we need to be focusing on
Is that what she was on?
Yeah, like she obviously was, she was a size 10, 12, 14. That whole size range was considered plus size by that time. Being the size, you know, the models, the size 2, the size 4, the size 6, like slim thick, that was the look. And I think what we need to do is, instead of focusing on the images and our thoughts, we need to be focusing on, like you said, our own self-image. I don't think it's a woman's problem, because men can also go into, you know, stigmatizing these looks. So it's not that we compare ourselves, it's that we want to be attractive, and we should be taught how to feel attractive in our own skin. That is definitely, and that is a skill that less and less people have every day, because they're on these apps where Instagram's literally an app where you just compare the best bits of your life against other people, which are normally having a better life than you, which are normally having a better body than you. Do you know what I mean? I feel like we can also flip that, because women say, "Oh, I want a tall man." They say that. Yeah, we say that, but that's something that men can't even control. Yes, but there's tall men and there's short men, and it's in comparison to me, right? I'd be short in comparison to you. You'd be tall in comparison to me. Like, I think that's different. Like a 5. I think it's the same. No, but okay, that's actually another topic. That's actually another topic. In terms of this video, what she's saying, we also got to bring into the fact that she is a personality. Now, when you put yourself out there, not saying that anyone has the right to. Yeah, not saying that. But you have to be ready for anything and everything at any time. But that does not mean, because this is what I was going to say originally. I have been on the side of where I've been the 80 kg, where I started to look thicker. And that is something I've never experienced before. Like, in myself, when I was at my largest, I was very happy, but I was also very conscious of the fact that, okay, my body now jiggles when I walk. My body now does this. My body now does that. I think a lot of the time you always want what you can't have, because when I was now at my smallest, I was even smaller than what I was my default. I was so unhappy. I was genuinely so unhappy. So I think it's less about her and the people making comments. I think it's more about the people that are making comments. Let me clear that up. As in, the people making comments, it's more about their insecurities as opposed to what Zeze actually looks like. Because unless she's unhealthy, I think it's very true. We should both be able to call out unhealthy skinny people and unhealthy fat people, not because we're calling them out to shame them, but we should be calling them out for health reasons. You told me on a day-to-day basis that this ain't healthy, this ain't right, this ain't this. You weren't doing it to make me feel bad about myself. I already knew that I felt I looked bad because I was a lot skinnier than my default, but you were saying it from a place of, come on, you've got to be healthier. Same way you've come to me and said, you know what, I'm not healthy. And I've been like, no, you look fine. You've been like, no, it's not to do with the look, it's to do with feeling healthier. So I don't know if I agree with you saying that it's women do it to themselves. Okay, when I say that, I mean there's two parts. There's the part of people giving comments to her all about, oh, she looks like she's on drugs because she's got money or some shit. That's just ridiculous. That's anyway, silly. You're very stupid and unbecoming. Yeah, come on, if you've done that. That's ridiculous. And then you've got the point of self-love and knowing how to love yourself at the position you are at. Because same way you've said to me, oh, Ty, you look fine. In my head, I wasn't at the point I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. Do you know what this is? This is Maslow's hierarchy of self-actualization. And one of the points in there is self-awareness. And people need to be very aware of the difference of the two. Self-actualization is a very holistic view of yourself. You know, like, things may not be perfect, but you are in such a balanced state that you're self-actualized, you're educated, you're this, that, and the other. People aren't self-aware. I think body dysmorphia and things like that. That's a real thing. Like, I could look at myself, right? When I looked at myself at my largest, I managed to convince myself some parts of me were like obese fat. Like in my head, that made sense because my stomach had a bit more fat on it. I naturally gain weight on my lower half of my body. So obviously that half of my body is going to be bigger compared to my top. That doesn't make me obese. That just means, but in my head, it makes sense. And until you have self-awareness where you're seeing yourself as you actually truly are, as opposed to in comparison to a lot of these think about school.
School, yeah.
Think about school and the way we were portrayed, and like not the misrepresentation but the lack of representation, and how that made us feel about ourselves. We couldn't see ourselves represented, so it made it very difficult for us to create a space for ourselves to then grow and learn about ourselves as our peers did.
Yeah. I understand what you mean.
And I think that's an issue here with the whole comments thing. People aren't self-aware because you're coming from your own narrative and your own thinking and your own being. You're pushing that narrative onto other people. There is nothing wrong with Zeze Millz. She looks good.
Yeah, there isn't. And it's like, there's just so much, because there's also, I sometimes think, if you compare yourself in a positive way, that can really help you. Like, especially in the gym, if you're there and you see someone, you're like, I want to
aspire.
Yes, I don't think there's anything wrong with looking at someone and saying, that's what I want to be like, I'm going to work and get there.
The boundaries though.
Yeah.
You've got, and that's where it becomes difficult, because you
don't want to put yourself down too much. You don't want to
put yourself down, full stop. You are still full and balanced and capable in your own entity, as an own separate entity. Do you know what I mean? Like,
women is magnified by 10 times as well.
Because our value a lot of the time is attached to how we look, which you cannot argue. 9 times out of 10, men fall in love with what they see, women with what they hear, right? That's a saying that I've heard and I've seen come to light. A lot of men will be like, nah, she's my type. And a man will jump from from A to B because of what he sees, whereas a woman will jump from A to B because of, oh, this is what I heard, or this is what I said, or this is what he said to me.
Much more emotional.
Much
more emotional. But again, that's a
generic,
that's a generic and a whole nother living video.
Exactly.
In conclusion, though, what do you think?
What I think is, like she said, mind your business.
It's mind your business, and just
respect.
Respect and so much self-love that people need to kind of...
Do you know what I think it is, actually? In conclusion, people have got too comfortable with the idea of being comfortable. Right? Yeah? If you are... Being slim is difficult. Being obese is difficult. Being the perfect weight is also difficult, because to be able to maintain that, you have to eat well. You have to even if you're not going to the gym to exercise, you still probably have to do some walking, do this, do that. To be able to maintain any form of lifestyle is difficult. However, people have become so strung out on whether it's defining who we are, whether that's how we look, whether that's our lifestyles, it has to fit within this this idea of comfortability. What's comfortable in your head? Because you might say she looks thin and she looks ill and she's on drugs because she's got a bit of fame. Who are you to? First of all, who are you to say that?
For real.
And second of all, she hasn't been. So you've made yourself look like a fool because it's comfortable in your head to come up with that narrative. Does that make sense? So you need to be uncomfortable with the fact... No, you need to be comfortable with the fact that people are different to you.
Yeah.
People look different. People have different body types. I naturally gain weight on my lower half. You naturally gain weight on your upper half. There's nothing wrong with that. It doesn't make you any less of a human. It doesn't make me any less of a human. However, I respect you as you, and I respect myself as myself. And that's it.
Rainy spitting people. That's it.
That's it.
That's where I want to end it.
Exactly.
I want to end it. How about that?
Respect people.
Jeepers,
and
people.
Respect yourself. And not that these things will be eradicated, but you come to a place of self-actualization where they don't cut as deep, because it's like, okay, you're hurting me because you're hurting yourself. And that's what I've got to say.
I ain't got nothing else to say on that. People, we'll see you later.
See you later. Bye.